Good morning. Sorry about the noise in the background. Good morning, Facebook family and friends. This is Saturday morning with Dr. Mama Rosie Thompson, and I'm very, very happy to be back with you again today. Want to say first and foremost, I really, really appreciate those of you who join in. Thank you for listening to my Saturday mornings, and I thank you for your comments, your suggestions. I really appreciate you. I appreciate hearing from you, and I just want to say thank you so much. When I finish today, I will also be posting this on YouTube like I do every week, so you can go in and see the videos on YouTube if you desire. Today is April 27th, and today we're still talking about singleness, becoming your whole authentic self. We're going to add a little bit more about therapy, and I do have an announcement. Jessica will not be with us on the 4th. She is unable to come, but I was able to go to the fundraiser, and I learned so much there. I still think it's a really great therapy center for those of you that looking for therapy, that you would consider Genesis and go out and look, take a look. There was one podcast on their site about trauma that I thought was really, really good. So I did watch that one. I thought that was a really good one to watch. So it's a lot of great things on their site that you can go and, look at some of the podcasts. And we're also going to talk about post-traumatic growth. So as we go past these things in our lives, how we definitely want to grow. We want to become our whole authentic self. We want to be everything that we should be. We want to be happy in our lives. We want to self-care. We want to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. So we got a lot of things that we want to do and things that we're working on for ourselves. And we talked last week, we talked about why I go to therapy. And one thing that I like, therapy gives us back that sense of safety. When our trauma happens in our life, it makes us feel vulnerable. It makes us feel like we don't have any control over anything. Sometimes it makes us like, it just knocks us off of our feet. So it gives us back, our therapy gives us back that stability when we got somebody we can go and talk to and openly share how we're feeling, and they're not judging us, and they don't have their own opinion on how we should act and all this kind of stuff. So therapy is a really great thing. I recommend therapy all the time. I love therapy because even as we work through regular life things, it doesn't have to be anything really traumatic in our life, nothing that's really hurtful, but some things that we got questions about. Am I doing the right thing? Why do I feel guilty when I make these decisions? Things like that. So therapy is really, really good. It helps improve our relationship with other people. When we understand what's happening, when we understand ourselves, it helps us to understand other people. We don't make comments such as they should be able to do this because we understand how it was for us. Sometimes it seems to be easy for people to forget what they went through, to forget the things that happened in their lives. And we look at other people and we want them to be so much different. And we want them to be, you shouldn't have this happen. This should be this way. But it's not always that way. One size does not fit all. What worked for you, we thank God it worked for you. But it may not work for me, So it enhances our physical health because that stress can cause physical ailments. And so as we learn about these triggers, as we manage these triggers, it can help us to be more calm, more relaxed, and help us to feel better. It increases our self-esteem. We get to feel better about ourselves, and we find that we don't have to go and do all this stuff, to try to make ourselves better. But we're okay just as we are. And it's so important to get there because sometimes and money's not the only thing, but sometimes we spend a lot of money or we go out of our way to do things to try to make us feel better. But once we get to feeling good about inside of ourselves and knowing that I'm already okay, we don't have to do some of the things that we do. And we will change doing some of the things that we do. We don't even think sometimes that we're trying to impress other people, but we're trying to get their approval. That may not seem that way, but we work so hard doing all these things, trying to be okay. We need this from somebody. We don't realize it sometimes, but when we get to work on ourselves and we get to taking an in-depth look at ourselves and making the changes that we need in ourselves, we'll find that that's what I was doing. And then when you realize that, it's a good thing to realize that. And it gives us greater life satisfaction. It gives us greater life satisfaction. And I think of going to therapy, and I think of becoming my whole authentic self. The scripture talks about, in the Bible, it talks about cleaning the outside of the cup, but the inside is full of all this stuff. And then you hear about even in our health, when they talk about the gut health, once we clean the inside of ourselves, how we are on the outside. So many times we spend money and doing things for the outside of ourselves to make ourselves feel good, but it's really the inside of ourselves that need to feel good. And once that inside feel good, your outside is going to naturally feel good. Once you get the inside, you'll find that things like now, if we start to detox and to clean the inside of our gut and whatever, we get to and doing things that's good for our health. We know that our skin look different. It starts to glow in more, and we find that I said glowing because I looked in there and saw my face shine. But anyway, our skin starts to glow, and we have just a joy inside of us, and that joy spills over to the outside of us. And when we're doing it on the outside, trying to make it go in, outside forces can't affect it. But when it's on the inside and it's radiating out, outside forces can't affect it. They can just get in the light, but they can't change it. So I think it's a really good thing to go to therapy. And as I said, I really enjoyed being at Genesis and meeting the director. They were so down to earth. They're not a free a therapy center, but they do help some people who are unable to pay. So they got a lot of great things, and thank God for the husband who started it. He and his wife started it 30-something years ago, May 1st, 37 years, May 1st. And they were really cool people, really great people to meet. So I recommend that if you're looking for a therapist, talk to Genesis. And another thing that made me really like them too, Jessica is a trauma therapist. And that's important too when we start to look for our therapist, to know what we need. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but what we need in a therapist when we start to look for one. And when you got a trauma therapist that understands trauma, or perhaps have gone through some traumatic situation themselves, it's good because they bring you the education, plus they have their own experiences, and they're able to kind of understand what you're going through. They're kind of understand, I think, better. So when we also talked about, I think we talked about last week, the stages of healing. And we talked about why, people with a history of trauma trends to be impatient, want to go from A to Z. And sometimes want to bypass it because healing is humiliating. When you're really healing, and it can be painful, it can be exhausting, you get embarrassed. It's embarrassing, especially when we're talking about the type of healing that we're talking about. It can be embarrassing, it can be hurtful, and you get tired. You just get so frustrated and tired trying to get there. And then we talked about the first stage, which is denial, like trying to pretend that nothing happened. When we are in denial, a lot of times we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about the problem. We try to find ways to justify why I act this way. I've heard people say a lot of times, "But that's just me." Well, I've come to find out that a lot of the reactions that I had in my life were not just me. They stem from something else. They stem, we out here using profanity and saying things. That's just me. Well, you don't want the other me to come out. There should not be an other me inside of me. So if there's another me inside of me, I need to go and find out what it is with this other me and help that other me get over whatever traumatic experiences the other me had, that I can be the whole who I'm supposed to be. Okay? So that's part of it. And then sometimes we persist. We stay in a behavior despite the consequences. This behavior is causing me negative consequences. This behavior is causing me hurtful consequences, but I stay in it anyway. So that's that denial. And then there's also the bargaining, where something happened, but, we try to convince ourselves that it really didn't affect me. Well, it didn't kill me. It didn't have to kill me. The fact that I was not who I'm supposed to be, it took me out of being in a whole authentic Rosie. That's enough for me. We may find ourselves focused on what we or what other people could have done differently. We start saying, if we sometimes think about all the things that could have been if this had not happened. We cannot go back and undo whatever it is that's traumatic in our life. We cannot undo them. So sitting around thinking about, well, if they had not done this, or if they had not said this, or if this had not happened, then things would have been different. Things would have been better. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It could not necessarily. So that's the bargaining stage, when we start to bargain with ourselves. The third stage is angry. We get upset about it. And we sometimes don't want to get angry, but it's okay to get angry, because you get mad enough, you're going to do something about something. You get upset enough and tired of something long enough, you're going to do something about it. When we get angry, think about it as being an indication of melting. I'm thawing now. This stuff can happen in my life. Hi, Internet. Thank you for watching. I'm angry. I get angry about something, but what it's doing is actually melting you. When you can allow yourself to be upset about something. When we stop trying to be okay with everything, everything is not okay. Sometimes people do and say they hurt us. We can say that's hurtful. That's disrespectful. I don't like what you did. We need to open ourselves up and open our mouth to let people know that this is not okay with me. Okay, and it's like taking us back. When we get angry, it's the time to take us back to those pre-pain days. When we start getting angry about the trauma and the things that happen in our lives, this is the step to take us back to those days when we were not angry. Then there's the stage of sadness. We get sad. Something happened. We're in this stage. We kind of like, sometimes we cry easily. And other little things can come up and we just start to cry and we feel real sad about those. And sometimes it can be based on the original trauma, but the triggers are still coming up. Know that stages are flexible. So you may find yourself moving temporarily back into the stage of sadness or back into that stage of anger, but it doesn't mean that you're not healing. So don't let it make you feel like you're not healing, because you are healing. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Don't let it make you feel like you're not healing, because yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're getting to where you need to be. You're going to be that whole authentic person that God created you to be. You are. He created you to be that way, and you just keep fighting. And the last stage is that when we accept it, we accept the fact that this happened to me. I don't like it, but it happened to me. I accept the fact that it happened to me. And I'm going to move on. I'm going to do what I need to do to get past this. Not to get, in a sense, because we'll talk about that too. It may not go away, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Well, we don't blame ourselves for what happened anymore. We have a healthy sense of who we are and whose we are. So yeah, this happened. I did that. I don't care what our past life has been. That's what it has been. We can't undo it, but we are not going to stay there, and we are not going to allow other people to keep bringing that up to us and keeping us there, trying to keep us in that place where we feel guilty. No, we're not. Because we're not condemned. We're not condemned. We're past that now, and we're going into a new direction. We said that we were going to talk a little bit about finding your therapist. And if you decide to go to Genesis or whatever therapist you decide to go to, you want to make sure that your therapist has more than a basic understanding. You're more than just a basic understanding. They understand the relationship dynamics of your experience. So there's so many different types of therapists out there. Like I said, Jessica is a trauma therapist. So if it's traumatic things in your life that you're dealing with, a trauma therapist may be your best option. And there are different types of therapists, and they all have different ways of doing things. You remember when we talked to Dr. Henderson, she said that deep breathing, that one of her clients told her that deep breathing wasn't working. I tried the deep breathing, that doesn't work. So it may not work. When you go to a therapist, what their style of therapy may not work for you. And it's okay for you to go and get you another one. Look for a therapist that has a few tools in their belt. They know that, okay, if deep breathing didn't work, then maybe we can try something else. There's a lot of modalities out here. There's a lot of different methods of therapy out here. Some of them do that eye movement where they want you to move your eyes a certain way. One size, even in therapy, does not fit all. So if you got a therapist and you don't feel like you're getting what you need, or you don't feel like you're being helped, it's okay to change therapists. This is your life. That's what we're doing. We're taking total control of our lives. Empathy and compassion should be obvious at the very onset of meeting with your therapist. If they don't have empathy and you don't feel that they're compassionate, because if you're going to a therapist, because every time I go to Walmart and I see those cotton balls make me feel a certain way, that's still an issue. If it's an issue for you, it's an issue. No one else gets to decide if this is something you need to be upset about. No one else gets to decide if this is something that affects you. You are the only one who gets to decide that this is something that I don't like, that this is affecting my life, that this is something I want changed in my life. You are the only one who gets to decide that. So when you go to therapy, if they don't have empathy and compassion for whatever it is from the beginning, and there should be zero pressure to accept anything that they suggest. If you got a therapist and they trying to suggest something for you and you don't want to do that, you don't want to do it. You follow your gut. You let it lead you on what you should do. You also, when you get a therapist, you want to make sure that there's some boundaries in place. They shouldn't be disclosing everything about themselves. They should be listening. more than talking. Unless you've asked them. Like if you ask them to educate you on something or to explain something more, and they may give you an example on their life, that's different. But it's not about them. This is not their time. This is your time. Dr. Henderson said that too. That's your time with them. They should be open to hear what you're saying, paying attention to what you're saying. In the sense that, like what I talked to you about my therapist, the first therapist I think I had, when she told me, what do you think about Rosie? She heard what I was saying, because I didn't say anything about the little girl. I didn't say I hated her. But when she was able to hear me well enough for her to go back and ask those questions, that's what we need. Your therapist should be reliable. If they tell you your appointment is at 6 o'clock, your appointment should be at 6 o'clock. And you should feel safe opening up and sharing whatever you want. And you get, because if we're not open enough to tell the truth about what we're going through, then they can't help us. So you want to feel like you're safe. And you also want a therapist who has the ability to admit that they don't know it all. You're the expert in your life history, not them. So saying, I don't know, let me explore this further, or allow me to do some consultation and see how to best assist you, there's nothing wrong with that. How to best support you, there's nothing wrong with that, and that's what you want. You want a therapist who is open, who's willing to hear you, and who's there for you. Okay. So today, we talked about, we said today, I changed it a little bit, because today we're going to start talking about something. We're going to have this young lady come on here, and she's going to talk about being emotionally mature. And that's really important as we become whole singly, as we become a whole person, to be emotionally mature. And so today we're going to start it out talking about, it's called post-traumatic growth, as we grow after this traumatic thing has happened in our lives. Remember, we can't undo the trauma, but we can heal. We cannot become bigger than that experience. I mean, we can become bigger than the experience. The experience itself, that trauma experience, is not going to get smaller. That's just not how it works. Everyone's experience with trauma and recovery is unique to that person. There's no set timeline for you to be different. One size does not fit all. It's sad when people try to make you feel like just because they feel this way, this is how you should feel. One size does not fit all. When we're talking about unresolved and unmanaged trauma, and it can make us feel like we're fighting a constant battle with life. You know, you have things happen, you be like, every time I look around, this stuff is happening. Why does stuff keep coming up? That's what our trauma, and when it's not managed or when it's not resolved, can make us feel like other things that they're not actually the same thing that happened before, but it makes us feel like we're fighting this constant losing battle. People tell us to get over it. They want us to get over it. Trauma can change a person to that extent that they no longer even know themselves. And they don't know how to find their way in life. So it is really important to understand it, especially when we're dealing with other people. Because if you don't understand trauma, how it can change a person, they don't know how to do it. And one thing, and since we're not educated in that field enough to help people get to that place sometimes where they need to go, then we don't need to be bringing up what we think they should do. That's why we're managing our own lives. We're responsible for our own lives. If we do get help, we're going to go to a licensed therapist who knows what to tell us. So there are the 5 phases of post-traumatic growth. They're educate, regulate, disclosure, story, and service. Today we're only going to talk, hi Rose, how you doing? We're only going to talk about educate. That's the only one we're going to talk about. So the 5 phases, these are the phases we have to go through. The 5 phases of post-traumatic growth, they represent the process we must undertake on the road on this road to get it where we want to go. What I want to say, make sure I say, they include grieving what we lost and rebuilding our core beliefs. So it's almost like a stage of healing, but this is after. This is after the trauma has happened in our life. We want to grieve what we lost, because we can grieve it. I lost my childhood, and because of the trauma that happened that time, the thing didn't happen my entire childhood, but I don't even remember the good about my childhood. I don't remember the fun things. And I know there had to be some time that there were fun things happening. I know there had to be some times that I had a good time. But I don't remember those, because of the trauma was the biggest thing that I remembered in my life. I remember being raped. I remember the kids at school laughing at us. I remember them talking about us. I remember being embarrassed. I remember the people coming over and I danced for that quarter when they would give me money to dance when they had the jukebox in the house. I remember wearing this little fish dress and serving dinners when my mom sold fish on Saturday nights and Friday nights. I don't remember where my brothers and I had so much fun. I remember Dad bought my brothers a BB gun for Christmas, and they let me shoot it, and he broke it in half. I remember that. I remember Dad used to bring candy home because he worked at this gas station. So he would bring candy home after work. And I remember I couldn't have any. I remember that I couldn't have Christmas gifts. I remember that Dad said I was lying when I said he raped me. So I remember that, but I don't even remember I don't remember the good. I remember the one time he nailed my auntie dressed to the porch, and then he hit her and ran. I remember laughing about that, but I don't remember. I remember the times that I spent my days outside under the house playing with these dolls that I made out of bottles and the soot from the corn off the stalk. That soot part, I would stick it in the bottle top, and that would be my baby doll. I remember that, but I don't remember the good. And that's what was taken from me. So I know this stuff was taken from me. So I agree what was lost in my life. I know there had to be some other things, but I don't remember. I just remember the trauma. And I'm rebuilding my core belief. I'm rebuilding who God created me to be. I am rebuilding myself. To now, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to get all this stuff out of you, and then allow the good to come in. When you had all this stuff, because mine, like I said before, and like I said in the book, mine was because I was raised in church, but the stuff that was going on didn't align with the word. I was so messed up. I was messed up in every way outside of God. I was totally messed up. Anyway, so when we talk about post-traumatic growth, it does two things. It's the process that helps us grow in the middle of stress, struggle, and hardship, trauma. And it's a series of domains where we grow. So that's what it is. So post-traumatic growth, we're growing in the midst of this stuff this stuff still, it didn't go away, but we're growing. And we're also, these are going to be talking about the domains on where we grow. The first thing she said so many times, the trauma is traumatic, and it takes over the good moment. It did. It took over all the good moments. It took over, and that's a sad thing because there had to be some, and it would be so nice to sit here and reminisce and think about the fun things that happened in my life, but it didn't. It overshadowed all of that. So the first thing we do, and that's what we talk about, we educate ourselves because education is power. Understanding why I feel this way, understanding the triggers that come in my life, understanding why. It's not what's wrong with me no more. It's what happened to me. I'm not looking at, because there's nothing wrong with me. That is not what's wrong with me, because you blame yourself and go, well, what's wrong with me? I used to be like, what's wrong with me? People don't want to be around me. What's wrong with me? They do this. What's wrong with me? No, it's not what's wrong with me. Now, if something in my life is doing something outside of what I like, then I say what happened to me to make me feel this way. But then when people do stuff, it's what happened to them. That's not me. And I don't have to be responsible for what happened to them. I got to be responsible for what happened to me. God created us with individuals, whole individuals. We can't take on other people no matter how much we love them, no matter how much we want to. We can say something or do something maybe to try and help them, but they have to do it themselves. We're going to educate ourselves on two things. First of all, we understand the power that the struggle or the trauma had on our thoughts, on our feelings, on our actions, on what we believe. According to the National Science Foundation, 80% of our daily thoughts are negative. Our default setting, we are by default negative. Anytime something happened, the mind go right on to tell you the worst of the worst. It can tell you, I know mine can tell me the worst of the worst. I don't hear from a child of mine. My mind don't say they're at the spa. My mind say, ooh, I hope they wasn't in an accident. When I knew they were going here, my mind would take me somewhere crazy. 80% of our daily thoughts are negative, our default setting. So we have to change that. And if that's our default, we have to change that. Changing the default requires work. Think about think about that when we start to add the negative events in life. This can take us to some very, very dark places. So our mind is already at a negative default, already set at negative. Then we got all these things that are happening in life, and we're looking at the TV, and this is happening. They talking about this, and don't talk to the saints of God, because they're gonna tell you about the world war next coming up, and they ain't gonna tell you about how we're not gonna get food. We're not speaking life into each other. We're telling them about the worst thing that's gonna happen, and it can really put us in some real dark places. But when we are in these dark places, what turns our negative thoughts, what turns negative are our thoughts and our feelings and beliefs. So when we get to these places, remember, our thoughts gonna lead to how we feel. How we feel is gonna lead to how we act. We start to question why. We start to look at, we totally forget who we are. We totally forget, those of us who love the Lord, we totally forget what God said. And we go well, I don't know what's gonna happen over here. I do. You do. We know what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen. God's going to supply every need we ever had. We're going to have more than enough of anything we ever needed. And then when it gets to that point that we don't see it, it's a door open right there someplace that we just need to calm down, quiet ourselves, stop listening to friends in the world, and remember what he said to us. Fear, when we talk about being fearful, know that when we're not just talking about we're scared of something. Fear comes in many forms. Doubt is fear. Resentment is fear. Anger is fear. Shame. It comes in the form of confusion. Sadness, even the absence of emotions, it can be fear. When we get numb, we just get numb. Know that these things are not abnormal. You're not the only one. We are not the only one. Sometimes we start to feel like, man, I'm the only one going through this. I'm the only one feel that way. No, we're not. Avoidance plus imbalance does not equal growth. If we avoid things or we are not balanced, it does not equal growth. It never will equal growth. Okay? We educate ourselves so that we have something to draw upon. We learn about trauma. We learn about trauma triggers. So when these things come about, we know where to go. That's why we educate ourselves in anything. We educate ourselves in the word of God. So when the enemy try to take our mind someplace else, we got the word to rely on. We think on good things. I don't care how bad it looks. We try to put ourselves back and think on good things. That's what we do. That's why we educate ourselves. If it's not in our mind, we can draw upon it. If it's not in our mind, we can't draw upon it. If we don't know it, how are we going to draw upon it? We don't know the word, how can we draw upon the word of God? If we don't know what trauma trigger does, how can we draw upon that? How can I say, oh, this is just a trauma trigger. This is not today. This is not this situation right now. This is a trigger. Let me see where it's coming from. Let me see how do I manage it. Eric Adams, who was a state senator, says, if we don't educate, we're going to incarcerate. We'll incarcerate our mind, and we will be so imprisoned in our own mind, in our own selves, where we can't do things, we can't enjoy life, because we have imprisoned ourselves, because we don't understand what's going on with ourselves. We didn't educate ourselves to it. We have to break those cycles. All of those cycles in our lives, things that's affected us, things that's going on in our life, we have to break those cycles. The second thing that we have to learn is the possibility to grow. So we know that we got to know that we can get past this. We got to know that we can manage this. We can't be doubting, I don't know if I'll ever get over this. Yes, we are. Not over it in the sense that it's going to go away, but we can. We can manage it. We can live with it. And we can still have a positive, full life living with it. Okay? Here's what it said, time does not heal our wounds. Okay, and I got this because I thought about this. And I remember the lepers in the Bible. Leprosy. And I always thought that leprosy was just eating up their skin. But what leprosy also does, it affects their peripheral, I'm from the country, peripheral nervous system. It affects the peripheral nervous system. And what it does, it affects that system. So the sensory and the motor, these are nerves that it damages our nervous system. So when they are damaged, we can't register pain. So, okay, not only did their flesh had these boils and stuff that was eating up the flesh, but also they couldn't register the pain that they were feeling. It can get to leprosy will stop you from registering the pain that you feel. So think about this. I broke my toe, but the toe broke, but I don't register the pain, so I'm still walking on it. I'm causing more damage. So now I've damaged my foot. I don't register the pain in it. I'm still moving along. Now my ankle messed up. That's how it is. That's how it goes. So when leprosy, and think about the awesome thing that Jesus did too. When he healed the leprosy, he gave them the ability to feel pain. Sometimes we don't want to feel pain, but pain lets us know something is wrong. It lets us know that there's something we need to look at, something we need to pray about. So pain is not a bad thing. We're so sometimes afraid of things that we don't want this to happen. But look what happened. If I'm unable to feel pain, to register that there's pain in me, and he gave me pain to help me to know it. So pain itself is not the problem. The problem is for us, it's not ever the pain itself, but it's our unwillingness to validate it, our pain. And our fear to face it. That's what the problem. It doesn't come in the pain itself. It's not the pain itself. So when we get pain, it lets us know something's wrong. That's what it does. It's a good thing. But if we're unwilling to validate, to say, oh yeah, this hurt, because we've been saying, no, I'm just going to, like the doctor said that my sister was talking about, I thank God for her. I went and finally testified, the one that came on and was telling us about the cancer. And she finally admitted that she was afraid. We don't want to admit we were afraid because we act like we're not supposed to get afraid. Yes, we do. We're afraid sometimes. We don't walk in fear, but yeah, we get afraid. When something come up on us like that, cancer, we know family members have died from cancer. We know people have died from cancer, and people coming up with all this good advice and stuff that they really maybe shouldn't. We can get to be afraid, and it's okay to be afraid, but you're gonna face it. We're going to face it. You all keep her in your prayers. She came on the line and told us about her surgery. It'll be this Wednesday. So let's keep her in our prayers and our good thoughts. Yeah, that she come through there. So we can't undo trauma in our life. We can't undo it, but we can heal. I said before, we can become bigger than the experience itself. So here's what happens. I want to show you this. This is what happens a lot of times. I'm going to turn this around because I'm going to show you on a Word document on my computer. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So people think, a lot of times people come to us because they think that as we grow older, that the trauma you see all the way to your left, that's the trauma. That's when it first comes in our lives. And I've looked at this because it does a lot of things. People think that trauma is going to shrink. As you get older, you should get over it. This happened so long ago. As you get over, you should, you're gonna, this stuff didn't happen. It doesn't work that way. It does not. It would be nice, I guess, if it worked that way, but it does not shrink. That effect that Dad had, and not the effect, but the fact of the trauma and the rape and the abuse and the disrespect I felt through life did not shrink. This is what happens. Because all those people that think we're supposed to do this and we're supposed to get to a place. This is actually what happened. I'll say that later, but this is what happened. We grow around it. That's what happens. When that traumatic thing in my life, now you see how big that little jar is and how much of my space and time it took up. Not much more could get into my life because of that trauma thing, because of that thing that was affecting me, because of that thing that hurt me. Other relationships and such and that guys couldn't get in my life. I couldn't be married. People couldn't get in my life because I was I didn't have room for them because of that trauma that was in my life and that was affecting my life. As I grew a little bit more and I learned a little bit more, then the trauma was still there. We grow around the trauma. That's what happens. We educate ourselves. We understand how to use it. That's what happens with us. Trauma does not go away. So a lot of time we got to get these people who want us to be okay and want us to get through stuff. It doesn't work that way. That's what it does. We grow around it. So as we grow, as we mature, as we learn, we grow around it. So the thing is still, whatever happened to us, it still happened to us. But we have gotten to a place now that we are bigger. We're educated. We know how to manage it. We are bigger than that thing. It's still inside of us, but it doesn't control me. The same pain was there. They still treated me bad. I can still say it, but now we're healed from that. Okay. It doesn't affect us. Good morning, Lena. Thank you for joining. We're actually at this point where we're ending. I want to go back because I want to show you this. I think that I want to show you this since you're coming on. But here's what people expect of us when I'm going to turn it around and let you see. And I think I may have shared this with you. That's what people expect of us. They expect as you get older, as you grow, as you get older, whatever, that the trauma in your life will shrink. And take a look at how much that trauma, how much, let's say how big it was in our life, depending on what traumatic experience you felt, and how much room it left for other things in your life. So people expecting as things, hey, Leanne, thanks for watching. People expecting you as life go on for that trauma to shrink and you should be okay. You know, that happened so many years ago. Why are you still in there? Why are you still bringing it up? Because it's still affecting me. And until I get to a place that I know how to manage it and to heal from that, until I get to that place where I can manage that, and until I get to a place where I'm really managing it, it's gonna still be there. Rose say we either get help to heal or we color. That's right. We color it like a pillar. It becomes our comfort and our reason not to grow and move forward. Exactly. That's exactly what happens. So don't try not to allow people to make you feel that you got to be a certain way ever. Because if it still affects you, even in conversation of disagreement, if we're not both okay, it's not okay. People are even in that sense. People sometimes want you to just, oh, I'm sorry, and you got over it. No, not necessarily. If I'm not feeling it, then it's not over yet. We need to talk. We need to communicate. And we need to make sure that the both of us are okay. It has to get there. So this is what we do. We grow around trauma. The trauma, you look at it, it's the same size as it was when I was a little girl. But it was that big inside of me when I was younger, and I had no room for other stuff. Think about how much space is taken up that didn't allow for joy, didn't allow for peace, didn't allow for laughter. I didn't know how to do it. And then even as I began to grow, it was a little more space. You know, I had more space to do things, but the trauma was still there. It does not go away. We just grow around it. It's important to know it doesn't go away. We can't undo what happened to us. We can't undo it, but we can grow around it. We educate ourselves. We get to know and understand this is what happened to me. I accept what happened to me. I disagree with what happened to me. I got angry about it. You took away my childhood. You took away so many things at work that I could have done, so many things that I wanted to do. And you came at me in ways that made me I felt really bad and hurt in so many ways. So this stuff don't go away, but I'm learning to grow around it. I'm learning to self-care. And that's what it's about. It's about taking care of yourself. And I guess I can say by any means necessary. You are the one that's important. You are the one that needs to take care of you. We don't need everybody else to agree with what we do. They don't even have to understand it. But as we take that for ourselves, we also give that to other people too. We don't have to understand them, but we can respect what they're doing and what they're going through. Let me turn it back around. So that's what it does. So we do have some other things that we're gonna definitely be talking about. The next one we're gonna talk about is regulate. We can't find healthy ways to self-regulate, we're gonna medicate. And when I say medicate, I don't mean just taking medicine. So next week we're gonna start talking about regulate. Many people do not understand. Most times people don't. And that's true. That's true. For ourselves, they don't have to understand. For ourselves, we should never even get to where we have to understand. Because we're all so wonderfully, uniquely made. We're all so different. We're just like fingerprints. We are all created different. We all react to things differently. I don't think that understanding is the bigger problem. Is respecting that we don't have to understand it. I should not have to understand why you're doing what you're doing, but I respect the fact that whatever it is, it's important to you. That's the part. Whatever you're doing it's important to you. And I may want something to happen differently, but it's not me, that's you. So I have to respect that that's what you need. You feel like you want to do or need to do. And that's the same way for each one of us. So next week, we're going to say, hi, Naisha, thank you for joining. Next week, we're going to actually talk more about regulating. Because Aristotle said that educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. So as we educate ourselves, we want to make sure that we are applying it. We want to apply what we know in our heads and in our lives. We're learning stuff so we have stuff to draw back on. We're talking about these things because it gives us the background we need to when we get ready to move into areas of our lives. When we get ready to do something, we got the education. We got the tools that we need to do those things. But we have to also apply them. I did find this out, and I found this to be very interesting to me. It said that we are the average of the 3 to 5 people that we spend the most time with. We ourselves are an average of the 3 to 5 people that we spend most time with. So we look at the 3 to 5 people that we spend the most time with. And we look at it and see, what do these people bring? And that's really, are they positive people? Are they growing people? Are they ones that blame everybody else? Are they talking about all this negative stuff? What are the 3 to 5 people that we hang out with the most doing? And we are an average of that. So we're going to definitely talk about more. There are other things that we need to make sure that we address. There are other things that we need to address. When we started this talk, we said that post-traumatic growth is education, regulate, it's disclosure, story, and it's service. So we'll get into more of those on next week. Again, thanks all of you for joining us here on Facebook. I will be posting this on YouTube. Thank you so much for everyone who's really been paying attention and who's been reading and posting comment. It truly makes a difference on who you are around. It does make a difference. It really makes a difference, especially, Naisha, when those people are pouring into your life. It's really important who we're listening to, who we're spending time with. We don't want to be around people all the time who everything is negative. We don't want to be around people all the time who are not empathetic, people who are not compassionate. Yeah, thank you. She said she'll be watching. Thank you so much. So today, our affirmations, we're going to end for today, and I will be back on Saturday morning. I love you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll be back on Saturday morning at 8 a.m., and I will be posting this entire discussion on YouTube as soon as we're done here. So our affirmations for today, our core DNA is whole. We're whole. The core of who we are created to be, our identity is whole, our individuality is whole, our personality is whole, our emotions are whole. And as I said again, we're going to have this young lady, she's going to come on, and I'll tell you more about it next week, but I think she's a very awesome young lady, and she's going to talk about being emotionally mature. And she posted on Facebook, she had a struggle that she went through, and she posted the entire thing on Facebook from beginning to end. I mean, she didn't cut out any days the day when she didn't feel like she looked up bad. She didn't cut anything out of it. And so she's going to come and talk to us. I think she's a good person to do that. So she'll be on to talk to us as well. We honor ourselves by being authentic. We honor others, and we honor ourselves by being just who we are. We don't have to explain it. Others don't have to understand it. But we honor ourselves. We are exactly and actually who we claim to be. What you see is who we are. We don't put on no facade for anybody. We don't pretend for anybody. Who you see, we are exactly and actually what we claim to be. We are not ashamed nor afraid to seek help. We're not afraid or ashamed to go to a therapist if we decide we need one. We seek help when it's needed. And outside of any and everybody else, we are safe places for ourselves. The safety we need most, we find it in ourselves. I want to thank you all for coming on today. Really appreciate it. You mean the world to me. As I said, I'll be posting this one. A couple of things. Genesis will not be with us on the 4th. Jessica cannot make it. But we will have, her name is Leslie Rutland. Her name is Leslie. Will be coming to us, I don't know, in the next few weeks to talk about emotional maturity. And we're going to continue with the post-traumatic a growth, because we're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to be everything that we were created to be. We're taking back, we're laying aside that stuff that came into our life, those beliefs and things that we took on that didn't align with who we really are. We're getting rid of those, and then we're putting on who we are. We're taking back where we were created to be. We're going to be everything. We're going to be whole in every way. Every way. Thank you so much for joining today. You all have a great day, and I will see you Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Have a good day, and thank you. Goodbye.